All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May 2nd, 2022 regular council meeting for the Village of Yellow Springs. And Judy, let's go ahead and call the roll.
All right, House.
I'm here.
Stokes. Okay.
He's running late.
McQueen. Here. Krieger.
Present.
Brown.
Yes.
Also present are Village Manager Jose Salmeron, Chief of Police Paige Burge, Solicitor Brianne Parcels, and Public Works Director Johnny Burns via Zoom.
And Kevin Stokes.
And there's Kevin Stokes.
Yes.
All right.
Stokes next.
Perfect timing. So, welcome everyone, and I believe this is our second in-person meeting. I will say, earlier today, I took a COVID test because COVID is still a reality, and I was actually on this bike mapping trip in California. 2 people were COVID positive, so I made sure to do the responsible thing. I am negative. I've tested 3 times since I've been back. And if anyone else needs a test, just let us know. All right. We are going to do a couple swearings in. And is LaToya here? Hey, LaToya, how are you?
Good.
Good. Great. So we're going to have you and Chief Paige come to the front, and we're going to capture this on video and camera. Welcome.
Do you have a second copy or just one? That's okay. There we go. All right, so I'll do a little introduction for Pastor LaToya after we do the swearing in, which is probably not traditional, but this is my first one, so bear with me, right? So, I'm gonna have you raise your right hand and just repeat after me, okay? Okay. I solemnly affirm my commitment to provision of pastoral care to all people, regardless of race, gender, sexual identity, national origin, creed or religion. I further affirm that I will support the Constitution and will obey the laws of the United States and in the state of Ohio. That I will, in all respects, observe the provisions of the charter and ordinances of the Village of Yellow Springs, and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of police chaplain. Hey.
Hey, thank you. All right, and I think we've got got something for you to make it official.
My pockets are just checked. Too many of them. First and foremost, this is just your badge identifying you as chaplain. Anytime you're on scene with anyone, you can wear that as an identifier with the YSPD. And Brian was very kind. He gave me a pen, and it slipped down into one of my pockets here. So I will hand that to you later. But if you don't mind, I'll just do a brief little introduction for Pastor LaToya. Should I stand up here? I'm sorry. Or up there?
There's fine, just have the mic.
Yeah, sure.
You want me to sit down?
Yeah, please. I'll do this for you. I got this part. So it's a pleasure to be here tonight to conduct the swearing in. The chaplain program here at YSPD is about one thing: helping people, which is why it's a program I support and a program that I'm passionate about. A well-respected TV host, and I learned today, a minister, Mr. Rogers, is well known for telling viewers something his mother taught him. When something is scary or going wrong, when something just seems plain bad, look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. From our very first meeting, I could tell that Pastor LaToya was one of the helpers. We are pleased to welcome her aboard as our newest chaplain. Pastor LaToya will be available to those who may want religious presence during what may be one of the hardest days of their lives. Just like our other chaplains and our YSPD employees, Pastor LaToya will be an excellent addition to assist those of any denomination or no denomination. Welcome, Pastor LaToya.
Welcome. I have to say, I really like the language around that swearing in, and I don't know why we don't add it to all of them. So yeah, I really appreciated that, and LaToya, thank you. So, all right, we're down. We're next. All right. And we're going to also do the right hand. Yeah, already. So you can repeat after me. I solemnly affirm.
I solemnly affirm
That I will support the Constitution.
that I will support the Constitution
And will obey the laws of the United States.
and will obey the laws of the United States
And of the state of Ohio.
and of the state of Ohio,
That I will in all respects.
that I will in all respects
Observe the provisions of the Charter.
observe the provisions of the Charter
And ordinances of the Village of Yellow Springs.
and ordinances of the Village of Yellow Spring,
And will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of
and will faithfully discharge the duties of the Public Arts and Culture Commission.
Excellent. All right, welcome aboard. Thank you, Wardell.
Thank you, Wardell.
Yes, and it's been great to have you. And by the way, I did find it in my pocket, so we wanted to give you also the official village pin. So wear it with
Would you
pride.
introduce
All right.
who you just,
Thank you.
I don't think you said his name.
Oh, this is first.
This is Wardell Kirk, and he is a member of the Public Arts and Culture Commission. He's been for a while, made many contributions already. So glad that you're with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, actually, Wardell's been very involved for the last couple months, so felt like we all knew you pretty well. All right, next up, we are going to have announcements. And, I think first of all, Marianne, do you want to say a few words about the Earth Day Celebrate Trails? I know it was a really amazing weekend.
Yeah, we had a great weekend last weekend, and I got to be at the Celebrate Trails, and Mark was there, and Gary, a bunch of bike people, and there was a recognition that included Moya Shea, who had put the blue blazes on the Buckeye Trail. And then that was Saturday. And then on Sunday, we had a great Earth Day celebration at the Miami Township Fire Station. We probably had about 20 or so vendors and displays. The corn drinkers played. It was so nice because some people just came to hear the music, and people who hadn't seen each other because of COVID or whatever got to meet each other. There were games for kids. So it was a great event. And actually, Lacey is in the process of making a little collage video, I think, that includes pictures and videos from both events.
Casey, I do have some great pictures actually from Cindy Seek, but if you've already got it together.
Yeah, she got Cindy's.
Oh, you got them. Oh, awesome. All right, perfect. Good. I'm glad that things happening in my absence. I also want to say, speaking of Miami Township Fire and Rescue, that I heard that they donated the dogs that we were grilling, and I think we ran out. Meet and greet with Chief Paige Burge was a great success. And, looking forward to next year. The brewery promised that they would pull out the wobbly wheel bike again next year. At our legal signing things in place. All right, so Kevin, I heard that you might want to say a few words about recent loss.
Yes. Thank you, Brian, and I do apologize for being a little late. It took me longer than I thought it would take me to change my identity from Antioch College to Village. Good evening, everyone. Yes, last month we did suffer loss. Rebecca Eshelman, who's been a pillar, if you will, in the community for several years. And I'm mentioning her because we will be making a couple of nominations to the Library Commission, and Rebecca was most recently the president of the Library Commission. There was a great obituary in, I think, the April 20th edition of the Yellow Springs newspaper. And I'm just going to read just a couple of lines from that obituary. Rebecca was a woman of style and a prolific and talented fiber artist who designed and created exquisite tapestries. She was also a skilled seamstress. She admired artworks crafted of unexpected scale and materials, food-made art, fantastical sculptures and recycled materials, mosaic pattern, and tessellations. Rebecca was an active contributor to the Yellow Springs Community Organization. She was secretary and treasurer of the Yellow Springs Shakespeare Study Group for many years. She was also a member of the Yellow Springs Senior Center, the Yellow Springs Historical Society, and the Village Library Commission. She had 10+ years with the Yellow Springs Library Association and was the ex libris editor and publisher, and until recently, the current president of that publication. So, the Library Commission will be meeting tomorrow, and Josue and I are working on formalizing some more formal recognition of Rebecca and her accomplishments and her contributions to the village. So I just wanted to go ahead and mention that so folks would keep that in the forefront of their minds as we're going through this period of transition in the village and with the Library Commission. So thank you, Brian, for allowing.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. And, you know, I think it's really important that we recognize the folks that serve the village. Yeah, I mean, we have so many amazing commission members and former council members, and yeah, thank you. So Josue, I understand that on May 4th, there's an electric incident or something that's happening, is that right?
I would need to get back to you,
I
Brian.
read something about,
A planned outage,
yeah.
so I'll get the details for you.
And then also, do you want to speak to the dog park? I know we're.
Yeah, so we got the dog park. I've got two announcements. One of them is the dog park. So last week, we had a few days that the dog park was closed because we're installing a really nice water feature. So the project is involved because you think that there's two big water towers there and we could just tap a hole in it and get a water fountain into it, but that's not how it works. Yeah, you can't just put a spigot on it and get water out of it. So we had to run a line that's quite a distance away. So we ran the water line last week, and this week we are actually installing the water feature. So bear with us as we do this work for a couple days, and then we'll have a nice water feature at the dog park. So.
All right. Cool.
I have one more announcement, and that is that, this is the first week of May, so it means spring cleanup. So took a drive through town today, and folks are really active in the traditional Springs cleanup event. So I want to remind our viewers and residents that are here today that this week through Friday, May 6th, we'll have spring cleanup, and that allows you to put your things out on the curb, and Rumkey will come by, pick it up if another neighbor doesn't come by first. So,
Yeah, I've got a Chase Lounge I need to put out. So, and am I understanding that we covered the cost of spring cleanup again?
yes, we're covering the cost again this year. We are going to be renewing or looking at a new solid waste contract in the middle of the year, and we'll be back to council about how to manage all these costs. Traditionally, the spring cleanup has been managed, the cost has been absorbed by the administration.
All right.
So
Good. Which means our taxpayer dollars are going to good work. Okay, so I think we have the consent agenda, which are the minutes from the last meeting. Oh,
If I could
yes.
just say something, it is unfortunate that the state politics have gone as awry as they have, but I just want to remind everyone that tomorrow is a primary election day. I was hurriedly trying to pull up a sample ballot to talk about some of the offices, and I think it's just offices primarily that are on there, no issues. But just want to remind everyone, as always, your vote counts, so please plan to go out and vote tomorrow on election day.
I believe this is a good opportunity to get a great candidate for governor
Yeah,
in the mix. So,
Indeed.
Yep.
indeed.
All right. Okay, consent agenda are the minutes from our last meeting, and based on the discussion that we had, do we have to
No, if
It's just if we have multiple, okay, right, okay. Since we only have one item, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Okay,
Second.
all right. And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, next up, a review of the agenda. Anything we need to add, remove, or modify? Marion.
Carmen and I would like to make a nomination for the Environmental Commission.
Okay.
And there's a paper on your table.
Cool. All right, so we'll put that in new business. Judy? Huh?
Oh, sorry, my thing. Yes, I am adding a resolution. Number 31, I believe, correcting the clerk's contract.
Okay.
And we've got a couple of library commission reappointments.
Okay, which I think are already on the agenda. Sweet. Anything else? Okay. So then, Kevin, I believe we'll have you review the petitions and communications.
All right, I will do that. So the clerk will receive a letter from Brian Hausch regarding Ohio Municipal League Regional Conference, a letter from Brian Hausch regarding Equitas Health, a letter from Catherine Price regarding council vacancy comments. There's a letter from the Greene County Sheriff's Office regarding the QR code for contact information. Greene County Health has information regarding Motorcycle Safety Month. Chief Burge has a letter in the packet that includes a compliment to Officer England. Cindy Seek and Jennifer Berman have letters in support of Rebecca Potter to fill the council vacancy. And there's letters from Joel Levinson, Jelana Lazar, and Eden Madison supporting Gavin DeVore Leonard in his quest to fill that seat. And there may have been others that came in.
Sir, also, you received those.
I got the email, but that's where they are.
And those letters were in support of?
Gavin DeVore Leonard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Judy and Brent, for that. Okay. Yep, and that's what we have for petitions and communications.
All right, thank you, Kevin. All right, we're going to move into legislation, and first up is going to be the second reading of 2022-13. Judy, we can do that by title only.
All right, this is amending Chapter 276, Human Relations Commission.
Okay, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And there is a lot of great language in this resolution. The HRC, as we've discussed, has a important and long legacy with the village. Carmen, do you want to make any brief comments? I know we kind of went into it last time, but if you want to give sort of the highlights, yeah.
So just of the history of the HRC, talked about in the late 60s, formed around then too, by a lot of national heavy hitters in the area of then what is called the civil rights movement, what we now might call social justice. There was a lot of deep consideration of what the village core values were then before they were even called core values, right? So we're talking about instances of, people not being discriminated against because of sexual orientation, gender, religion, race, class, and those things were critically important to the village before they were even important nationally, right? Mm-hmm. So we look at our neighbors, not to say anything that's, negative or positive about our neighbors, but our neighboring communities just weren't engaged in that way yet. So it's just one more example of Yellow Springs being a trendsetter.
Great. So, and then, I don't know, Carmen, Kevin, do you want to speak to sort of where you see the HRC heading next?
Well, I'll just briefly say that one of the phrases that was added in the original purpose for the HRC is to discuss issues dealing with diversity, equity, and inclusion. You know, there's some phrases that are that can be catchphrases or cliche phrases or you know, passing fantasies, if you will. But you know, this country has struggled with diversity, equity, and inclusion for years. Alluding to Carmen's comments, you know, we here at Yellow Springs were trying to do some of those things before they were cool. And so just want to express an outreach, if you will, to the entire village that there's work to be done, and the Human Relations Commission is a place where you can do some of that work. So I encourage anyone who wants to put their shoulder to the wheel to show up at this or other boards and commissions that are designed to provide more bandwidth, if you will, to Village Council. We will be, in a very short period of time, filling a soon-to-be vacant position on council. But there's a great deal of work, and sometimes more important work, that happens at the grassroots level in some of these boards and commissions. And the Human Relations Commission, I think, is just one of the examples of that. And just want to encourage folks to step up and show their support for all things Yellow Springs by getting more involved with civic engagement in any way you can. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. And I appreciate you highlighting the capacity element of our commissions, because that's always really an issue, and it's why the Public Arts and Culture Commission, the Environmental Commission have really been adding a lot of value, and that's what we want to, I think, stay consistent with. Carmen, were you going to add something? Yeah. Okay. Marianne?
Well, I appreciate the change in language, in particular under powers and duties. I see the shift as being, I don't know if activist is the right word, but proactive, maybe. Proactive rather than reactive, like programs, research, things like that. And I appreciate that shift.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. Lisa, do you want to add anything?
No, I'm glad that it's,
Coming back to life in a new way.
Right.
Yeah.
Good work, thank you.
All right, thank you. And so I'm going to open the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments before we take a vote? All right, so then we're going to close that public hearing. And Judy, if you could call the roll, please.
Yes, Brown. Stokes?
Yes.
Krieger?
yes.
McQueen?
Yes.
Couch?
Yes. Okay, next up is ordinance 2022-14, and we can also do that by title only, please.
Okay, this is repealing and replacing Chapter 1022, numbering of buildings, to Chapter 204, official standards, moving addressing of buildings to Chapter 204, official standards, and updating the language.
All right, can I get a motion? So moved.
Second.
All right. So, okay, so I did not see Denise, and
So Denise is not here, it's her birthday, and she
Oh.
covered, yes.
Wow.
Happy birthday to Denise.
Hello, where was that announcement? All right. Happy birthday, Denise.
Birthday, Denise.
Okay,
So Denise made a presentation on not just
Yes.
this ordinance, but also the following 3 ordinances that are housekeeping items.
Here can provide further details if we need to.
Yep. And so, yeah, so this is in our housekeeping realm. I'm going to open the public hearing, so I don't forget. And Brianne, go ahead.
Well, generally speaking, your addressing standards haven't been updated since 1987, and of course, there have been a lot of advances in technology and other standards since then. One of the biggest things is that, we've got a datum point. We've got a center of town that all addresses should be measured from, and in fact are. So it made sense to kind of tie it to and bring it within the administrative code, because right now, in the 1022 section, it's set up as a utility function for addressing. But there's a lot when it comes to the planning function that now that we have our own building department, addressing just makes more sense to move it under the administrative section of the code. The other thing we're looking at is Okay, so when 1022 was adopted, there was actually a criminal penalty for someone to not have their address posted. We are now in an age where Miami Township Fire and Rescue offers that signage for free to township residents, including village residents. So on the off chance that they don't procure their own signage from Miami Township, then the village manager could get that signage posted. Of course, that's one of the standards that has been updated, is what is responsible in terms of visibility for first responders. So if we have a situation where we've got an older building that's been subdivided into units, are we looking at apartments, unit numbers, that sort of thing? That's the kind of thing that planning and zoning function, it makes more sense to have it as rather than a utilities function.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to underscore that this is about those emergency situations where you don't want to be, scrapping around trying to find an address. So I think that's really important. So, okay. Any questions or comments for Brianne? All right. Questions or comments from citizens? All right, then we'll close the public hearing. And Judy, if you could call the roll.
Yes, McQueen.
Yes.
Krieger.
Yes.
Stokes.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Couch.
Yes. Okay, ordinance 2022-15, another second read. We can do by title only.
All right, this is amending chapter 1440, 1440.03, 1440.03, authority of village manager, thereby removing reference to Greene County building regulations.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so I know this is part of the other housekeeping building department stuff. Josue, you're going to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Brian. As you all know, we have our own building department, so we do not need to make references to Greene County Building Department. So this is a housekeeping item, removing those references from our code that make a reference to Greene County Building Department.
Right. And I should say, as a side note, the Veganry was one of our local businesses that benefited from having a building department that could get that done lickety-split.
Right.
So, all right. So we're going to open the public hearing. Any questions or comments on this? Oh, did I not ask for a motion?
You did.
Oh, okay. Judy had a, yeah, that's right.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so questions or comments from citizens council? All right, if not, we'll close the public hearing, and Judy, call the roll, please.
Yes, Krieger. Yes. Brown. Yes. Stokes.
Yes.
McQueen. Yes. Couch.
Yes.
All right.
All right, 2022-16, title only, please.
This is amending chapter 1266 signs, thereby changing references from Greene County building regulations to building official.
Can I get a motion?
I move.
Second.
All right, same thing. We are changing it to our own building departments. I'm going to open the public hearing. Questions, comments from anyone? All right, going to close the public hearing, and let's call the roll.
All right, Stokes.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
McQueen.
Yes.
Krieger.
Yes.
Couch.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, 2022-17, title only, please.
All right, this is amending chapter 1470, public nuisances, thereby changing reference from Greene County building official to building official.
Can I get a motion?
Second.
All right, so again, same thing. Open the public hearing. Questions, comments? Close the public hearing. Judy, call the roll, please.
Yes. Krieger.
Yes.
McQueen.
Yes.
Stokes.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Couch.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have the emergency reading of ordinance 2022-19, and we can do that by title only.
It is 19. You're correct. This is approving the form and authorizing the execution of the 2022 solar energy schedule with American Municipal Power Incorporated and taking other actions in connection therewith regarding solar generated energy purchases.
Okay, can I get a motion?
I move.
Second.
Okay. All right, Josue, why don't we first of all talk about why we're doing this as an emergency?
Sure. This ordinance, we've been reporting about a potential solar PPA contract through the Blue Creek development. Currently, we have Blue Creek Wind Energy, and the owners of that energy project are now adding solar to the mix. So we, meaning the association, has been negotiating the purchase of 250 megawatt production at that facility. The ordinance before you allows us to continue to be at the table. If you recall, we reported back in December that we were expecting to finalize this contract back in December, but due to supply chain constraints, delays in the projects, that the AMP as an association did not execute a contract with the Blue Creek ownership, and so the project's been moving. So currently the tentative agreement that we have at the table is that AMP will purchase 250 megawatts of power from this facility at a price point not to exceed 4.5 cents kilowatt power. What you're voting on tonight is an ordinance that would allow us to continue to be part of the negotiations. We're not agreeing to a contract now. We're agreeing to continue to be part of the purchasing group that's not binding from a contract perspective. We will make that determination once the AMP has finalized a contract, and then we'll bring back an action to council to vote on that. The basis of why we need more energy in our portfolio is that we have two energy contracts that are expiring. We have the EDI landfill and the Blue Creek Wind Energy. In your package, there's a letter from AMP that itemizes the ordinance and the contract that we're negotiating with Blue Creek, and it also breaks out the energy sources by percentages and also the years that we have left on these contracts. So there's a chart, and I'm happy to pull that up if it would benefit council. What I've also have on the table, and I'm planning to ask for this at the end of the meeting during my manager's report, is that I want to bring the AMP representatives to a council meeting at the next council meeting. So that will be on May 16th. It's been our practice that we bring an AMP representative to present on the power supply issues that we as an individual entity experience, and also the association, what's happening in the space. So I want to bring them on May 16th, and we'll also want to cover other topics other than just power supply.
So next meeting, because these negotiations are going to start wrapping up relatively soon, or?
We expect to, the May 16th, it's been a custom to bring them during the May, June time period. So that we want to stick to that schedule.
So not so much about the negotiation.
Correct. This is where it fits in the schedule. But the negotiations, we expect to be done with the negotiations by July.
Okay. And the reason why we're doing this as an emergency is because we need to stay actively involved in the negotiations, right? Okay. Okay. So I'm going to open the public hearing since it's an emergency reading. Any questions or comments from council?
I have a question, and I don't think it's exactly related to what we're voting on, but in the description, AMP seemed to be recommending that we only have 10% of our energy coming from solar.
Yes.
Now, if that's correct, I'm surprised at that. Why? That seems very low, and I'm wondering.
Yeah, I've had conversations with Mike and others from the team, and part of their recommendations based on how market is being purchased on a daily basis, and also the fluctuations of when solar energy is available. I am in disagreement with that. In fact, when we were looking at the expansion of our own solar production, we wanted to look at local storage so that we are not susceptible to the fluctuations of when solar energy is available, and we would have batteries to stored energy that we could release on demand. So the AMP's goal is to manage or finance or purchasing cost as best as they can. So they want to leverage arbitrage opportunities and being able to sell any excess energy we have or buy energy when we need it. So from them, it's a risk mitigation perspective. Similar reason why they're not pushing us to add more hydro. to our portfolio because we're heavily concentrated on hydro. So from them, it's part of their business strategy, part of their energy management strategy to not recommend more than 10% of solar.
Because the way I read it too was that it was more that we had dictated that policy. So you think this is their internal like approach?
Yeah, so I'm gonna pull up that slide. Here's the slide. It's really a limit. It's limiting the concentration of solar. So this is their formula that they ran in their projections for us. So this is where they're getting their recommendation. This is the formula they're using, and this is where that 10% recommendation and the total megawatts.
So this doesn't have anything to do with the limits that we've historically had on solar, that
when we had the cap for residential solar. No,
so that's not what this
no, this is primarily on the total concentration of our portfolio.
Carmen, were you going to say something?
I was just going to ask village manager to bring up the visuals.
Yeah.
Okay. Lisa? Okay, so my initial thought from this brief discussion is that I guess I want this AMP presentation to involve more of this policy piece, because like Marianne and I think others are implying, I think, our ultimate goal is to have 100% renewable, and I know we have some options when we buy on the market to do that, but if we can keep sort of expanding our solar with what we're going to do on village property and batteries. Anyway, so it'd be great for them to have that be part of a presentation, which I don't think we've done before.
Sure.
It'd be nice just to have more of that thinking around.
Right, and this is just a recommendation.
Yeah.
This is not something that we have to adhere to. It's how much risk do we want to take on. And as we discussed previously with expanding our own solar production, we can find ways of storing it, and if we're able to store some of that energy, then we mitigate our own risk. So I'll make sure to include that. The recommendation is not from a policy perspective, but a concentration risk perspective. So policy will be more of a council directive than an AMP. And AMP works for us, and they're a great team to work with. So they'll find solutions for us.
Would you ask them to talk about RECs? Were you going to do that?
I was planning to do that in RECs. You did not see the REC resolution on this this agenda, partly because when we bring up AMP, I want a representative from AMP to cover that piece.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Well, we're on the AMP presentation. Is there anything else anyone wants to see? These guys are energy nerds, so if we give them an hour, they'll fill it.
Well, I mean, maybe their goal isn't renewable energy. I don't know, AMP. I mean,
it is a significant portion, like this 250 megawatt, that's the association buying an entire production of Blue Creek. So certainly AMP has been a leader as an association in the state for renewable energy.
so I would like to know if they have any projections about other renewable sources that might be coming online, whether, not hydro, I think we have plenty of hydro, but wind, the brownfield kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yes, and I have received proposals for other energy sources. I think last year we were looking at various projects. There were 3 projects we were looking at for replacement of the EDFI and the Blue Creek Wind. So Butler County is continuing to expand their energy center in the southern part of the state. So there's additional solar and wind that's coming out of Butler County. This particular project, the Blue Creek, was interesting to us because it met the right price point for the association, and there was greater value that the AMP association was getting out of the partnership with Blue Creek versus Butler County and some of the other areas. So we did have proposals. I can share some of those details because we have been looking at all those opportunities. I know one meeting we even presented on freeze, on a combo project of freeze hydro and solar. So there are several projects out there. If there's something that they're not actively working on, but that we find ourselves and we want to buy energy from, we can work with them to explore that. However, we get greater value when the AMP members are joining a project.
Thanks.
So I'm interested in the strategy for being 100% renewable. And I guess related to that, I mean, I want to clarify why I said policy, because yeah, it obviously council decides policy, but I know from past discussions that, you know, there's been some interest in we can make our electric prices cheaper if we buy non-renewables on the market and that sort of thing. So I think we just need to have full information about what they're thinking, what we're thinking, and just to decide what the best decision is. And so I'm not saying I know what that is, but I know that at some point all communities are going to have to be fully renewable. And
Right.
so, you know.
Right, I think that could be a discussion, maybe a work session discussion, because we can get to 100% renewable energy. We have to be willing to pay for it. And how do we pay for it? You know, we talked about various local projects, the solar pavilion, the putting solar at the train station. Those projects have been hard to get off the ground because we need a utility grade project in our community to offset the high cost of installing those projects. A Sutton Farm installation would fit great into that mix because we could get a utility grade installation there that would offset the cost of installing solar at the pavilion. Here at the John Bryan Center, we presented a drawing of this and we put a price estimates. It's $700,000 when we talked with the consultant. That's a very steep price for us to pay for that. But by doing an industrial grade, utility grade project, we could bring those projects online much sooner. So I think that I look forward to our next work session because we have urgent energy contract needs to deal with today, and we need to talk about the solar projects. They stalled on our end. Part of it is you see the supply chain constraints that we're having with AMP in this contract. There are also some things I want to talk about local solar projects and how do we bring them online here in our community, because we need to do more projects in our community. We need to work towards building grid resiliency in our community, building the microgrids and the grids of the future, and that requires local generation and local distribution.
So speaking of that, that was the other thing on my list.
Yeah.
Does AMP have any expertise around like setting up like a local grid?
They do, and we've attended a conference. We have a conference coming up in the fall. I attended the conference last year, and we talked about a lot about the microgrid and the grids of the future, including some neat business models on how to rethink the business model of electricity to be more accommodating to the new demands of consumers and where is technology going with regards to the grid. So an example would be, how do you leverage more residential solar generation and being able to manage that flow of energy back into the grid and distributing it? There's other communities doing a lot of really neat things. For example, some that I recall were investing in heat pumps to provide customers not just with electricity, but customers paying for heating and cooling, and the utilities are managing those equipment. So there's a lot of growth and innovation happening in this space. Some that is housed with AMP, and some that are housed with the experts that AMP has access to and that they present at the conferences.
Cool.
So,
all right. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? All right. I think we can close the public hearing. Great discussion. And Judy, I guess we'll call the roll.
Brown. Yes. McQueen. Yes. Krieger.
Yes.
Stokes.
Yes.
Ouch.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Resolution 2022-29. Title only, please.
This is just Resolution 2022-29, and then it gives the PID number, county route and section number, and it's related to a preliminary ODOT let project.
Nice. And you had multi-modal path in there too.
Yes.
which-
you know.
Yes, I do like that language. All right, speaks to me. Can I get a motion?
I move. Second.
Yes.
We like multimodal paths, apparently.
Yeah, so, well, I feel like we talked about this last time, but Josue, if you want to.
Sure, you know what else I like about these ODOT projects? The ODOT-led projects. So meaning that, they're going to do a lot of the legwork to get us the contract, do the engineering and all that. So you've seen a couple of these come through in the last couple of weeks with the Safe Routes to School. So this is another project that we have with ODOT. This is actually the direct result of the active transportation planning that was done in past years. We were very ambitious and we applied for a $1.8 million grant with ODOT, and guess what? We got it. So this is specifically for that redoing the multimodal path along Dayton Street. So
And it's ODOT, but it's federal money. And so, the fact that, a village of 3,700-ish can handle federal grants of that size is pretty impressive, and it's why we keep doing well.
Yeah, and it gets better, zero match.
The best kind.
So I guess this is maybe a good opportunity to talk about what's going to happen on May
17th.
Yes.
So we reactivated the Active Transportation Committee work. We had a meeting, our first kickoff meeting was really good. We had a lot of stakeholders at the meeting. We identify other folks that we feel would need to be at the table. So May 17th, we kick off our first series of presentations within the Active Transportation Committee. I get the pleasure of going first, so I will be talking about what we got lined up with regards to sidewalks, multimodal paths, and what projects we're working on and what do we have on the horizon. So, just to remind you what some of those are, this in June, month or so, we're going to break ground on the sidewalk along Limestone, connecting the community from Bill Duncan Park all the way down to South Walnut Street. So that's going to be the first project this year. We are going to be working on the South College bike path. If you recall, last year we resurfaced about half of it, and then there's the trees that were an issue, and we didn't want to touch that political hot potato in the moment, so we gave it some time and think through the project, but we'll be wrapping that up this year, so we'll get that second portion. We also have sidewalks that we've completed the grinding, and we're moving into the next phase, which is some sidewalk replacement. I see Mitzi Miller is in the crowd, and Mitzi has been a champion, a great supporter, cheerleader on her end, to helping us identify trouble areas and working with us in the community to move some of the projects along. So that's a glimpse of what I'll be presenting at May 17th at 8:30 in the morning. So
Yeah.
we'll record it and share it, and it'll be here in this building.
Yeah, so the plan, I think we'll plan that meeting in Active Transportation Committee. The public's welcome to join. We're going to do it in here. Lacey, you won't have to be here, but we're going to flip on the camera and record it. And again, it's going to be a great opportunity for people to really see what the $3 million is going to bring us on Dayton Street and on Limestone in terms of safety and sidewalks and shared trails. Pretty cool. Okay. Questions or comments? All right, then, Judy, let's go ahead and call the roll, even though it's a resolution.
All right, Brown. Yes. Krieger.
Yes.
McLean. Yes. Stokes.
Yes.
Tausch.
Yes. Okay, last piece of legislation is Resolution 2021-30, and we can do that by title only also.
This is calling on Ohio PERS to divest from and avoid any financial exposure to companies involved in the production and maintenance of nuclear weapons, and calling on the United States to support and join the treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons.
Motion.
I move.
Second.
Okay. Brianne, as you're strolling up here, I'll mention that at our previous meeting, we joined ICANN, and it was nice to have Tia bring that to our attention. But ultimately, the goal of ICANN is to basically get municipalities, states, nations to sign on to the treaty to ban nuclear weapons. So we wanted to take the next step that a municipality can, and Brianne, maybe then you can explain what this is.
Sure. In terms of municipalities, when people talk about states or municipalities signing on to the treaty, only nation states can sign the treaty, but nation states are made up of constituents, including municipalities. So what this would be doing would be to direct our local officials state a stance, and also to say we do not want the Ohio Public Employees Retirement System, in the event they're invested in any of these companies, please divest yourself of these, because OPERS is kind of a black box. You know which funds are, available in terms of mutual funds and indexes, but in terms of the actual companies that make up those, there's just no real way to tell, because you're not a direct stock investor when you're an OPERS retiree. So to the extent that the Ohio Public Employees Retirement System has any investments for public employees that are Yellow Springs retirees or active employees, you don't want investments in nuclear weapons or any companies that are affiliated with nuclear weapons, this would be telling our people in Columbus, shape up. And as far as the federal government goes, the United States is not a signatory to ICANN yet. The United States Senate is the treaty body for the United States of America, so we would be asking one of our US senators to please make known that the Village of Yellow Springs supports the United States of America signing on to ICANN.
And I saw that, Sherrod Brown was mentioned as receiving this, so cool. All right, questions for Brianne? Any comments? All right, Judy, let's go ahead and do a roll call on this as well. Thanks, Brianne.
All right, Brown.
Yes.
Krieger.
Yes.
Stokes.
Yes.
Queen.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
And we do have one more.
Oh, yes, that's right. We did add a new resolution, which is 2021-31. And Judy, we can do that by title only.
All right, this is approving a salary increase correction for Judith Kintner for continued service as the clerk of council.
Okay, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Who is, what's that?
I'll start it off.
Okay.
This is a correction from the initial resolution to provide a wage adjustment for the clerk of council. The intent of council was to provide a 5% adjustment similar to what was provided to the village manager at the time. The challenge, what we need to correct is how the base salary is calculated. There's an arithmetic issue that was confusing, and I take responsibility for the confusion because it's math that I provided to at the time a council president and vice president. This resolution corrects that issue and just sets it at 5, which was the original intent of council to award at that time. Did I miss anything, Brian?
Nope. It does just make me think, once we get to the point of updating the employee handbook, that if any of these confusions are related to clarity in that we should make sure that's clear.
Yep.
So, because I know council's notoriously been confused about the step system and everything else, and we've gotten a lot more information about it recently, which is good.
Yep.
Okay. Questions, comments? All right. Judy, let's go ahead and call the roll.
All right, McQueen. Yes. Stokes.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Krieger.
Yes.
Housh.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So Legislation is complete. We are now at the point in the meeting where we take any citizen concerns. Remember, we ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes, and Judy will time those 3 minutes. And this is also anything that's not an agenda item. So do we have any Mitzi Miller? Come on up. And we do like you to come to the mic. We're also, I think we decided we're going to get better at asking you to say your name, if you're a resident, and then you don't have to give your address, but just where you are in the village. So, you know, sort of what area. And I think there's a lot of reasons why this is a good thing to do, to, as elected officials, know who's a resident, where they are, and that sort of thing. So, so Mitzi Miller, so you are going to kick this off, or being more officious.
Thank you. My name's Mitzi Miller. I am a resident since 1990. And I live on West Limestone.
Okay.
Just as a member of Active Transportation, part of our goal is to educate our community. And I'm an avid walker and have been out walking recently and have noticed quite a few cars or vehicles blocking sidewalks. And just wanted to remind our residents that you are needing to make sure that you're not blocking the sidewalks. I just put a word out to our police chief to remind the officers that if they see people blocking sidewalks, if they would give a nice reminder to those people to move vehicles. Also, since spring is here, just a reminder to our residents, we are trying to make our sidewalks more accessible for all populations and our guests, and encourage you to go out and look at your sidewalks. And if there are branches or brush, or could be piles of dirt or rocks, anything that is impeding traffic, pedestrian traffic, we'd like you to take action. Thank you.
Thanks, Mitzi. Great things to highlight. And I know also, I'll mention that the Active Transportation Committee is talking about ways to help support community members in these constructive actions to clear the sidewalks. And so, so I'm excited about what we come up with that. Any other citizen concerns? All right, John Fee. And so, John Fee, we are asking people just to say their names, if they're a resident, and if you are a resident, what area of town you live in.
John Fee Jamara, resident, Antioch College area.
Perfect.
Yeah, I was wanting to make sure that to watch council, an effort to watch council, that when the new council person is elected, that the reasons behind the selection be given publicly, meaning not just stating the resume, but stating to the public why a resume is chosen over another resume. For me, leadership is lacking sorely, and it is council's responsibility to act when the people have spoken, and the people have spoken. Lindsay Burke got the most votes, and now it's council's responsibility to act on that. No disrespect to any other folks vying for that, for Lisa's position, but the people spoke, and now it's your responsibility to act on what the people have spoken on. And I'll leave it at that.
All right, thanks, John Fee. Any other citizen concerns? Yes. Yeah, I mean, we probably, although I'm not exactly sure that we're going to have comments about that, so that's why I allowed it.
Okay. Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Jill Eggleton, and I live on North High. I'm a resident. I am here to encourage you to also, like he said, to consider the will of the people that have already spoken 6 months ago. The candidates that ran, Lindsay Burke received 664 votes. Issa Walker received 563 votes. Laura Curlis received 550, and Scott Osterholm received 319. So I would just encourage you to consider the will of the voters in Yellow Springs that have spoken recently. I appreciate your time.
All right, thanks, Jill. And did you mention where you are in town?
North High.
North High, thank you. All right. Any other citizen concerns? Mark Heiss?
First meeting in May, it's got to be mentioned. My name is Mark Heiss. I am a resident, live on Senior Avenue. Just wanted to say that May is Bicycle Month, and it's Bike to Work Month, and Bike Yellow Springs will be taking part in a number of events regionally as well as locally, especially with the schools and the Ride to School Day. So I just wanted to say it's summer. Please watch for the two-wheeled non-motorized vehicles that are out there sharing your streets. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, and it's great to hear that Bike to School, Walk to School is coming back, because that's always been a huge, fun event. And I encourage people to get out and see like the thousands of bikes in front of Mills Lawn. So yeah, very cool. Any other comments? Okay, great. We have no special reports. We've got a little bit of old business, and first of all, we're going to get an update on what's going on with YS Pride this year.
Yes. All right, thank you, Brian. I know we got a long agenda ahead of us, so I'll try to be brief. We had a great, very productive meeting with the Pride Committee and our team, which included Public Works Director, Police Chief, and we're also looping in the Fire Chief. So we went through the agenda. What's happening Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The feedback that council wanted at the time primarily had to do with cost and estimates, because there was an ask before council for a financial support for Pride activities, as it has been a practice for council to provide financial support to Pride activities. There are things that council paid previously, such as the rental of the space at John Bryant Center, safety expenses and whatnot. So the request, so I'll get to the essence of the meeting, which meant to identify what the total costs are. So for the Pride rental, the event space rentals here at the John Bryant Center, we're looking at $650. That includes staffing the activities that are required to be staffed while the event is taking place. Then we have a $500 expense for barricades, purchase of fencing and materials to corridor off space here at the John Bryant Center. So that's a total of $1,150.
Does barricades mean the fencing for the beer garden?
Fencing and the A-frame barricades.
Okay, but it includes the fencing.
Yes, it does include the orange fencing that is put at the entrance and around the porta potties and whatnot. So that's $1,150. There's a public safety expense. That's the hiring of the additional police officers to provide the safety along the route and at the event, and that's expected right now to cost between $2,000 and $2,500. The other asks from the committee are $300 for banners and $200 for the community cookout event on Sunday. So looking at the Pride ask, which are the banners and community event for Sunday, plus the John Bryant Center cost, that's the rental space of the John Bryant Center, and the public work expenses, the barricade and fencing, we're looking at $1,650. The public safety, I've broken that out separately because obviously we have to provide public safety, and I think that that may be an expense, actually it's an expense that we can absorb on our end. So council's contribution here would be that $1,650 in total. That includes the entire ask of the banners and food, community cookout event for Pride, plus all the rental and event setup here at the John Bryan Center.
Would the total village government contribution be including in-kind?
The hard cost is going to be $4,150 plus my time, Public Works Director's time, and Police Chief Burgess' time. And we'll have some time from Philip, from marketing perspective, and others that are associated with the event. Sam Stewart's time, and my assistant Erica Thomas' time. So those will be in-kind contributions that, I can estimate the hours once we get further into planning, but we haven't factored that into the total $4,150 expense.
Are we making a decision tonight about, or are we having a discussion about?
We might, but I mean, I think it's good to, make sure that, we also recognize, obviously why we support these events, because they bring people to town, they support local business. I know Carmen mentioned, and Marianne wants to follow up on that, many municipalities support festivals just straight up. The Strawberry Festival in Troy, that is completely supported by the municipality. So these are things that are common for municipalities to do, and we saw the power of Pride last year. I mean, it was phenomenal. So anyway, so that being said, yeah, go ahead.
One of the things I appreciate about this request is that the banners have durable value. Mm-hmm. So that's a one and done expense that can be used multiple years. And I think we've seen that with our Public Arts and Culture Commission creation of banners that keep art displayed without costing fresh money every single year. And I also think, we just heard at the beginning of the meeting about the value of the get-together that was just this last weekend, and some community picnic action can really make all the difference. And I think right now, people are just so longing for community and to be together. I mean, it's just great to even be in this room and see your faces, even though it's scary. And none of us are really adjusted to it yet. So, I mean, I'm definitely in support of this.
And so I think, getting to your question, Marianne, I think we probably do need to make a decision, because the end of June is coming soon. But I do think the longer term picture is we need to budget for this and other signature events like Martin Luther King Jr. Day and many of those, and
Street Fair?
And Street Fair, yes, which is coming back in October. So I mean,
4th of July.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
so these need to be, but anyway, so Marianne, were you gonna?
Yeah. I would like to, ideally, for every event that we have on a regular basis, be able to say to the people hosting the event, this is what we'll do for you. And it might be, it would be different for each event, but so that people wouldn't have to come back every year, unless there's some kind of change.
Yep.
For this one. I did a little research about gay pride, and actually, I looked at Athens, Oberlin, Cleveland, Dayton, I think, and somewhere else. Most pride, those, at least the ones I looked at, did not seem to be sponsored primarily by the municipality. They were sponsored by businesses and banks. And I have had a email with Amy, which was very helpful, and I really appreciate all the work that the Pride people have done and that they're now incorporated. So I'd like for us to agree upon, this is what you can expect from us. And I'd also like to know then where else they're getting funds, because I know that they have in the past, and I suggest going to the banks and Cresco, YSI, some of the bigger businesses, and banks in town that can support the.
And I was impressed that now that since they've been incorporated effective this year, they're actually working towards a sustainable business model to keep the organization going beyond just the annual parade, but have more, have year-round activities. One of the ways that they're looking to become a self-sustaining organization is there's vendor fees that are happening at Pride, there's sponsorships, there's the beer garden where the proceeds are being reinvested in the growth of the organization. So they are thinking about that self-sustaining model for the organization.
And I think, and having more, I guess, direct knowledge, this group is definitely doing the legwork. But I agree, Marianne, that, it'd be good to have that be, part of just what we understand about, what's going into the event. So, Carmen?
I just want to add something really quickly. Given the amount of revenue that the Pride activities bring to town, I mean, we think about $4,000 for the body being maybe a little bit much, but I know that when you're working downtown during Pride, it is a little bit of that boon that some business owners need. So yeah, it's $4,000 plus with in-kind, contributions. But, some of these businesses are making that in a matter of a couple of hours. And so I think that, council or village government can, of course, we would like to see the organization be self-sustaining, but they're new. But I think it's kind of our responsibility to make sure that they have the funds and support that they need to carry on, especially considering what it does for business in the village.
Yep.
I felt that they had a robust list of past sponsors that are likely to repeat, including West Banco and a lot of local businesses. So I felt good that they're, I'm confident in Amy to not be shy about fundraising.
Yeah. All right. Well, so I think we have a future agenda item which is that we want to, I guess, get our house in order around, what we're sponsoring for events, and that's something we should be able to budget for. I mean, that's a great practice. But I think, right now we're talking about $1,650. So I'll make a motion to support that ask.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
What is that?
Aye.
So the
1,650.
So for the venue and all that, yeah. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And that's coming from council.
Yes, that will come from the commission budget. So, under the auspices of the HRC, as we start to get
why
that.
not?
Yes, yes.
Congratulations.
Yes, there you go. Thank you, guys. Yes.
The Public Arts and Culture Commission.
There you go. Yes, it's combined.
So I would, Josue, whether you can do it or Matt, to give us an accounting of where that fund will stand after.
Yes, and we're actually planning to come back with quarter financials at the May 16th meeting as well. So I'll roll it into that financial report.
Thank you.
Okay. Marianne, climate action update.
So last year, the village hired a consultant, Piper Fernway, to make recommendations about what the village could do in terms of climate action work and sustainability. So as we know, if we're going to look to the federal government for this, not a lot's going to happen. If we are actually concerned about what's happening to our planet, and hopefully we all are, we have to do something right where we are. So Piper spent the last half of last year looking at the efforts that had been done in the village in the past, which would rise and fall. Nothing had been continued because there was no ongoing leadership. She met with probably about 60 or 80 people altogether. She had stakeholder meetings around both what has happened in the village over the last decade, as well as what people thought would be possible actions to to do in the future. The 7 areas that she was concerned about of things that we can do in Yellow Springs and in our environment are native habitat. So this isn't just about climate change, it's also we are experiencing worldwide loss of biodiversity. These 2 forces, climate change and biodiversity loss, are threatening life on the planet, not only for humans, but all other species. So native habitat, and that's probably one of the strongest things we have going in the village now, is a collective effort to re-nativize our properties. Local food, we're probably going to be seeing more disruption on our global food system and more need to be growing our food locally, and we are really fortunate that we live where we do because we have that capacity, even though most farming now is industrial agriculture, but it doesn't have to be. Water, that includes the water we drink, it includes how we treat our water, our sewer, as well as how we manage our stormwater. Waste, how we manage our waste, how we reduce our waste. Energy, which we were talking about earlier, and buildings together collectively, and transportation. So some of those areas are things that it's easier to work on than others. For example, in transportation, we do have the Active Transportation Committee, and there are ways that we can encourage that. We can encourage people to have electric vehicles, but there's not a lot we can do about cars and trucks driving through Yellow Springs. So Piper made some recommendations on activities that we could do, and since she returned the report and the appendices and all the other materials she gathered at the end of January, the Environmental Commission has been meeting, reading the, really it was a couple hundred pages that she put together. We've also been meeting with the Glen, Tecumseh Land Trust and Agraria, and we've been meeting with Josue to decide, to look at how can we move this, what can we do to move this effort forward, and how can it be community-based. And so this is just an interim report. I hope that we come to the council in June with a recommendation that we can align around in terms of how we might move forward. So.
Okay. Carmen?
Yeah, I wanted to add something. We're talking about this report and how we treat our water. I'm just throwing this out there, the biofiltration swales. Central State University has one of the best water resources management programs in the country. They are in the Little Miami River several times a year. This is me saying it so that I won't forget about it. The village could have a relationship with Central State and that program. And it could be, you know, a group senior project that the state could pay for to get some swales done. So that's it, because I'll forget if I don't say anything.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions, comments? Well, I mean, I will reiterate what I emphasize every time that we talk about this work, which is that I also want to think about the applications around how we can be more efficient, save taxpayer dollars, and like do the right thing around the environment. So that's a one element of this work that's really important to me, along with just, yeah, we got to do our part with climate action. Okay.
And we're certainly doing our part.
Yes.
I think, you know, we strive to do a lot.
Sure.
When I joined the organization, when I joined the village, June of 2019, one of the letters waiting for me was a citation letter from the EPA that we were exceeding our sanitary flows. And we got to work. And we reduced sanitary flows by 35%. In the manager's report, you see we reporting regularly on our water loss reduction. So there's a lot that we've done, and there's a lot more to do. And I'm glad that Carmen brought up Central State, because our Thaddeus, one of our wastewater treatment folks, which I'm not sure if you met, but if you haven't, love to get you out at the wastewater treatment facility.
My favorite place to go.
Yeah, so I know you enjoy the wastewater treatment facility.
I just actually, speaking of like saying things that before you forget, Greene Bayrock Terrelou, anyone remembers her, artist that lived in town, I have a CD of all these amazing photographs that she did of the wastewater treatment plant. And so, so I need to get
Yeah, we should get them up on our site. So we thrive to reduce our carbon footprint, be more effective in what we do. And there's a lot of victories that we've done, even the small ones. We have a hybrid police vehicle that parks outside and it's not idling all the time. Those things can go a long way. So certainly there's a lot more work to be done in this space, but we're actively at it. I love the idea of bioswales. You've heard me say before, we need money for stormwater. It's a very common practice in local municipalities to have a stormwater mitigation fee. It could be minimal, $2 for every utility account. It goes a long way to putting money aside towards construction of stormwater mitigation. That's probably our biggest environmental threat right now is stormwater. I know the neighbors see it. I know many of you probably see in your homes. You get a little too much water than you expect. We need to build infrastructure for it. We need the financial resources for it. I had to do a plug for stormwater.
Yes. All right. Well, and I didn't cut you off, but no. I mean, it is something that I think can be on a future agenda. I mean, I think there's been interest in that idea. Okay. Yes, Mitzi.
I'm interested to see if the village could somehow have some kind of water barrel program, that they were able to purchase water barrels at a cheaper price for residents. And it'd just be a nice community service project for the village to do to encourage that.
Thanks, Mitzi.
Are we doing responses? Huh? Are we doing responses?
I mean, did you want to say something?
We're running tight on time.
Yeah, I don't want to. Jennifer, go ahead. We need you at the mic so that everybody can hear you.
Gotcha. I'm Jennifer Berman. I live on High and Whiteman, and I'm a resident. It sounds like maybe this isn't appropriate, but I had a response to Marianne. May I, or is it?
That's Brian.
Brian?
I guess response. Okay,
well, a suggestion.
Okay, yeah, sure.
It's just very exciting what Marianne is talking about, and it made me think of the Nelsonville Music Festival, thinking about street fair coming up and how much unbelievable garbage that generates.
Yes.
Nelsonville generates, when they have their music festival, which is also huge, they have something like less than 1% landfill at the end of that festival. So I've always thought, and I've never said anything about the idea that we should really try and make street fair more environmentally.
And actually, a former environmental commission member was working on that and left, but that is something that we can, there's a possibility that we can do some things, right?
Thanks.
Nice, thank you.
Okay.
All right, love it.
Thank you for all the suggestions, I appreciate it.
See. Okay, we are gonna do some new business, and then we're gonna hear from our amazing pool, actually. I'm really excited about the people that are interested in council. All right, so we've got nominations. So let's go ahead and start with Library Commission, Kevin Stokes.
Hold on. Why don't you move to the next one?
Okay, Environmental Commission, Marianne or Carmen?
Yeah, so we have a new person, Amanda Hernandez, who is new to the area. I think she came last year. She was a AmeriCorps working in Agraria, and now she's one of their farmers at Agraria. And she has expressed interest in being on the Environmental Commission, and she is young, energetic, clearly interested in local food, and I'm very excited. Do you want to say anything?
Sure, yeah. Met with her a little bit this afternoon. I was late getting there. But we have kind of a lot in common. I was the program coordinator for Promise Neighborhoods Community Garden that was housed kind of at a school that's gone now. It was a charter school, one of those fly-by-night charter schools in Springfield called Springfield Academy of Excellence. We had a 90% germination and fruition rate. And we had a soybean farmer come and tell us that, you know, that he couldn't have those numbers because if he'd make gobs of money if he did. Saying all that to say, Amanda said that she was interested first in food sovereignty and security when Puerto Rico lost its agriculture with the last couple of major weather events there. And she was a, I think, political, was a poli-sci major. And then the shift happened when she saw the instability of our food system in this country, but specifically the state of Puerto Rico. So I'm excited that she's interested as she is. You know, she cares, and
Yeah.
she's terribly she's fired up.
Nice.
She's ready to go. She's fired up.
Hearing youth in the mix.
So I would like to nominate
Okay.
Amanda.
Second? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, awesome. Kevin?
All right. So the two folks that are currently on the Library Commission, Richard Zoff and Dorothy Smith, it seems like Dorothy's been over yet, but they're renewing. So it just seemed like she was just here getting sworn in not long ago. So they are both interested in maintaining the work. We're all familiar with the work that they do, both on the commission and in other parts of the community. So I won't belabor the point. Additionally, after we lost Rebecca, Ingrid Neighbors, who is a member of the Library Association, was appointed as chair of the Library Commission. And so they are able to do that, we realized. So we accept Inger as the new chair and convener of the Library Commission. But here I am tonight specifically, I'm nominating Richard Zoff and Dorothy Smith to remain members of the Library Commission.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. All right.
And Judy, is it okay that I lump them together like that? Alrighty, cool beans.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, great. Okay, Josue is going to talk to us about an affordable housing proposal.
Yes. First, let me give you an update on where we are with Austin Press.
Yep.
We're in a great place. I think one of the proudest moments I've had in my tenure here at the village is that we were able to preserve these homes for these families. I think that's a bold move for village government and council to take. We walked the walk on this one. We're afraid of people getting displaced, and we did, I feel, the right thing. So I want to thank you for jumping on board with us on this, or us jumping on board together on this. So where we are, we replaced the roof. That it's in the manager's report. So we replaced the roof. Pardon the bad pictures here, but we also made significant upgrades to the units on the inside. That's what a kitchen looks like now. It's new cabinetry. We've got new electric stove. new refrigerator. That's what the stove looks like. And I'm impressed. It's got this sensor in the center that if it doesn't have weight on it, it won't turn on. So yeah. I guess if you leave something on on it. But we made some major improvements to what they were. Some of you did a tour. I'm opening it up for additional tours now that we've got these units ready to be seen. So we've made some improvements. So what's next? Now that this is the bathroom. We had to redo the shower walls and the tubs. So there are places that I would feel proud to live in. I will feel proud that my mom lived in. So that's what we wanted to bring the housing conditions to those standards. So again, pardon that it's light isn't that great. It's my phone. It's a phone. Took it with my phone. So that's what the bedroom and
It
the
looks really good.
walk-in closet. Yeah, you were out there.
Yeah,
This walk-in closet. So
I don't know if any of these pictures are that yellow room, but that one was.
And it's got new flooring too. So yeah, so we're in a great place. We got new AC units going in there as well. So these the 5 units on one side of the building, they're moving ready. We got a little cleaning up to do. So they're almost ready. We plan to come back to council with recommendations on how to move forward in terms of leasing these units, the rate that we anticipate to recommend council. Those would be 2 things that council would need to approve.
And at this point, are we doing these repairs without using the line of credit? Is that
correct? So if you recall from the financing package, we had applied for a line of credit so that we could use to make the necessary repairs that we anticipated. Council agreed that if we could use our cash, that we would use our cash to make those repairs. So we have used available cash to make those repairs. And to date, we're looking at an expenditure of $66,628. That's the roof, and those are all the 5 units that needed to be upgraded to be move-in ready. So we've used cash. We have kept track of all these expenditures because what I propose or what I asked council for is allow us to use cash to make these repairs so that we don't borrow against the property and pay the interest rate. We will use available cash that we have, and we will keep track of the expenditures so that the property would eventually pay the village back unless council did a forgiveness or utilize money to offset or cover these costs. One of the things I'm proposing now is that in my proposal, I'm including money to use some of the affordable housing funds that have been used aside to put into this project. So there's 2 things I'm asking for. One is what happens with the property next? So we should stay that. We said we wanted to go into this business and do this project to preserve below market rate rentals in the village. We knew these were at risk of being lost, so we wanted to preserve them. While I enjoy taking on all these new titles that I get, I don't see us being long-term landlords. I want to build capacity with the tenants, with the existing tenants and future tenants of this building to take over the property. So I want to build capacity within our neighbors that they would eventually take over the building and own the building. So I want us to give ourselves the opportunity and give the residents an opportunity to explore what does a cooperative housing model looks like for Lost in Place, and let's see if we can get it up and running. So what I'm asking council for money to provide training and coaching and legal services to build the capacity of the current Lost in Place tenants and future tenants to look at creating a cooperative at Lost in Place and becoming owner occupied of this building.
So actually, the amount that you're requesting is the full amount that we allocated for affordable housing. Okay, so I like what I'm hearing with the proposal. I'm just going to throw out like what I'm thinking. So first of all, I don't think we should allocate the full $30,000 to this project. So I think we should, kind of think about a portion of that. The But there's one thing I want to make sure that we properly vet, which is the interests of the residents in the co-op model.
Yep.
And I know you've talked to them.
Yep.
But I guess I'd almost like to have a council member or two in a meeting. Like, I was thinking about this, yeah. So maybe like Marianne and Carmen or something, I don't know. But that was one thing when I was thinking about today's meeting. I'd like to just have that like really good conversation about what this means and the interest and that sort of thing. And then when I looked at some of the other expenses around like, the technology, for example, I'd like to get some support from the community foundation or maybe some other business donations. So I think still like I'm on board with the model that you're presenting, just not necessarily on board with allocating the whole amount that we thought about for affordable housing. So that's where I'm at.
Okay.
Yeah, I hadn't thought much, Brian, if I may, about the interactions with the tenants in terms of the co-op. I knew that was going to be a forthcoming proposal, but certainly the affordable fund or the funds in the affordable fund that we set aside. I mean, $30,000 is not a lot of money, but we do there is some competition for those dollars. So I think we do want to be careful to reserve some of the funds for other requests that we know are pressing.
Any other thoughts? Marianne?
Well, I do think the co-op is a great model. I also agree that I think we want to know that the people living there are really up to this, that they want to do it and that they're up to it. I did talk with Kevin Magruder, who has experience in co-ops and I think would be willing to help with training or meeting with I'm not totally speaking for him. He said he would be willing.
Okay. I'll sign him up.
Okay, yeah. And also whether it would be limited equity co-op or not, that makes a difference.
Yes, it does.
Also, I think that the $30,000 that we set aside was for Home Inc. Kevin, wasn't that?
One would think.
So my understanding, when we set aside the 30,000, was that Home Inc. had made an ask for 30,000.
Well, that's how it started, but we confirmed it with the minutes. Judy went back and watched the meeting. After discussion, we said it was for affordable housing, and we specifically talked about that. I mean, there could be different initiatives that could fall under. But it is true that the original request came because Home Inc., had some things on their radar. So
that was that was my vote. It was setting aside for the work that Home Inc. is doing with the cottages that they want to build behind the fire station. I do support this, and I support putting money in it, but I would not particularly want to take the money that at least I thought was going to go for another purpose.
Right, well,
and I'd like the idea of going to the foundation and trying to get some more funding for this project too.
Well, my vote was definitely that it was for affordable housing, and we did have a discussion about that. So, but I want all the projects to happen as well. So,
to answer some of the questions that came up, we are planning a meeting with the tenants, and it will be on site. So we won't have them come all the way to the John Bryan Center. We're going to meet on site. They'll be able to see one of the units. They'll be in one of the units. I'll make sure to invite the designated council members to that meeting. I've also been in conversations with Ellis Jacobs and the Able Law Firm. I have been linked in with a cooperative housing lawyer, or a lawyer that has that expertise in the organization. So we'll invite that representative to the meeting to speak with the tenants and provide an orientation. We've also pooled the neighbors, the tenants, and we have one no, and everyone else a maybe. They want to learn more. They want to know how it will work, and it's reasonable. I don't expect folks to understand what a cooperative model is. There'll be a lot of orientation to be provided. And the one person that said no, they're just not in a space where they can contribute much. everyone else was a maybe and want to learn more. So I took that as a positive sign, and I think it's a good investment to make, at least to explore the idea.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that we have council members interested in being engaged, because I really do feel we can learn a lot from this to inform future initiatives. So,
Great.
okay. So then, are we kind of, maybe we're not exactly making a decision, but we've put some intention out there around, or do we need to commit to some money right now?
I heard a yes.
Yeah.
With an unspecified amount.
Right.
What would be council's will or position at this moment? I don't want to, push for a decision. I think.
Why don't we move forward with that engagement piece? But I think you are correct. I did hear council say there's interest in supporting this. So, yeah.
Okay. And who would be the two council reps?
Mary Ann, Carmen,
Ann?
are you? Carmen, is this?
Sure.
Okay. I mean, and if for some reason someone can't make it, I would be interested as well.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
And the new person might be.
yes. So, but good. But I really think it would be great to have us there. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay. I think that's all our new business, except for, I think the focus of the evening. And I believe that Judy kind of just listed these names randomly. So we're going to use the order that is on the agenda. And so basically, maybe just to give a little bit of framework, this is the third time, to my knowledge, that council has been through the exercise of someone resigning, and we have a process that is codified in the village charter. The more I've thought about it, I've been pretty impressed with the vision of our founders and understanding why a process like this makes sense. But I know that the first time I was actually engaged in it, and Judith Hempfling was going to resign. Council interviewed several folks, and these were actually like private interviews. It wasn't a public process. So I was part of that. Judith ultimately ended up finishing her term, so the folks that were interviewed just got interested. The second time, Judith did resign, put a hard stop on when she was finishing, and we did the same process that we're doing tonight. We had folks present at the council meeting and also get to sit through the council meeting. It's a nice part of understanding what you're signing up for. And at that time, I remember council articulated that we had some particular things that we were looking for. Those two things in particular were somebody that was planning to run in the next cycle with the idea that they would sort of shorten the learning curve. And then the second thing was we were looking for youth and diversity. I will say this time around, I have not heard any council member put any particular parameters on what we are looking for. We probably will end up talking about that. I mean, to John Fee's point, we've always explained, or I know I've always explained my reasoning for any decision that I make. But I do want to emphasize that while we have put in an executive session for the end of tonight's meeting, we may not come out of that executive session with a decision. We are not going to rush this decision. We are going to follow the process that the charter lays out, and we're listening carefully. We've been really appreciative of the information that we've gotten. I think most of us know all the folks that have put their hat in the ring, and it's a great group of people. So I think that's enough preface. I don't know if any council member wants to say anything before we have, Carmen? Yes.
Because I'm not clear on this. So vacancies on council shall be filled by remaining members by an affirmative vote of at least 3 council members. So I guess I'm just not clear, because right now, I mean, you're physically here.
I'm
Yes.
voting.
Yes. And that was
voting
actually a distinction.
So even though on paper, if according to the village, like according to the newspaper and the letters that we got, you've resigned. But the charter states that remaining members. So do you have a hard, I'm sorry, did you have a hard resignation date? Because we got notification on the 19th of April and it was in the paper on the 20th of April.
Yeah, I didn't put a resignation date in my letter.
Okay.
And that's because according to the charter, there's within a certain period of time. Is it 30 days, 60 days, something like that? But I can't remember because I read it before I was interviewed.
Sure.
But that was Lisa intentionally did not give a resignation date to be part of the decision.
Heard.
Yes. Yeah. Good question. Anything else? Okay, then, all right, we are going to be strict to the 3 minutes. So Judy will give that hard
And I'll just so you know, I'll give you the 2 sign when you're at 2 minutes, which means you're heading towards the finish line at that point, and then at 3 minutes I'll holler at you.
Okay, thanks, Judy. And Scott Osterholm, you are first on my list.
Hello, is that good? Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Osterholm. But before I proceed, I would like to thank Lisa Krieger for her years of service to our community. Thank you, Lisa. I moved from Arkansas to Yellow Springs when I was in high school. I graduated from Yellow Springs High School in 1988. After high school, I traveled around the United States working for a stained glass restoration company. Over the years, the company evolved to incorporate historic window preservation. To give you an idea of the scope of the work I was entrusted with, I was the lead foreman for the restoration of the Georgia State Capitol, the South Carolina State Capitol, and Chappell Hall at Allen University in Columbia, South Carolina. Whenever I had vacation time, I always came to YS, my hometown. I moved back in 2014 and found it hard to find some good paying work in the construction field. So I got my CDL and I switched careers. At the time, I was listening to friends gripe about the issues that were facing our town. So I decided to get involved. So in 2015, I applied for the Human Relations Committee and was accepted. And since then, I have been quite active. I was on the committee to find the new village manager. I was on the committee to find the new police chief. I'm on the Board of Zoning Appeals right now. I was also a candidate in the last election. And believe me, you find out a lot about a person, how they handled feet. So after my 10-minute pity party, I publicly congratulated the winners and kept moving forward. When the opportunity to join the Planning Commission presented itself, I applied and got on it as an alternate. So in closing, I would like to say this. I might not have the educational background that you're looking for, but my life experience and the fact that I keep getting voted onto these committees by this council, because I've worked through all of you, says to me that you have faith in me to get whatever job needed done. Thank you.
All right, yes. Lindsay Burke.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
All right, first I'd like to say thank you for the time and consideration, and thank you to everyone who's here and on Zoom for your time. I have lived in and around the village for most of my adult life. I'm a single parent to an awesome kid who most of you probably know before you know me. I've worked in the service and retail industry in this town for the last 12 years or so. I did 19 consecutive street fairs from sunup to sundown. I've done it all, from cleaning houses to managing public art projects. Then finally in 2019, I achieved a personal goal by opening my own shop here at 128.5 Dayton Street and began cultivating a young team of artists along with Pierre Negley, who most of you know. Through the pandemic, I worked with a group of several of our incredible small business owners to pull together and weather the storm of COVID. We're still struggling to recover, but I could not be more proud of the dynamic leaders that stepped up to help when the times were the toughest. Thank you to Jamie Sharp, Melissa Herzog, Brittany Baum, Marsha Walgren, Dino Pilata, Mark Heiss, and everyone who saw the benefit in solidarity. In my time in Yellow Springs, I've spent time serving on the community in a number of organizations and in roles with a focus on anti-racism, sexual and domestic violence prevention, and community building, including the Feminist Health Fund, Village Assistance Network, Human, the HRC, etc. Yellow Springs stands on the precipice of historic change, and I don't think I'm speaking hyperbolically. In the next year, in the next 5 years, in this very moment, what happens in this village can be a model for the future that we want to see in the world. We've been that example before. Wouldn't it be great if we could be that again? Not every decision will be grandiose or glamorous. Some of them are tedious, but they're all meaningful. My goal in running in this past election cycle and in applying today comes from a desire to give voice to a population that is deeply necessary and often underrepresented in government. I come here to give voice to working class people, parents, growing families, creatives, artists, young professionals and entrepreneurs, renters, low-income people, and people who don't have equal access to avail themselves of their representatives. My goal is to offer that perspective in this moment of great potential growth and change, to preserve the cultural history of and identity of Yellow Springs and to bring it into light as we rebuild and recover. To my fellow applicants, thank you so much for stepping up to serve our community and for your thoughtful statements tonight. I hope whoever is appointed will approach the position with respect, with care, with integrity, and with a commitment to do the right things even when they're hard. Thank you to Dr. Krieger for your service to the council, and thank you to all of you for your time tonight.
Thanks, Lindsay. Okay, Gavin.
Hello, I'm Gavin, DeVore, Leonard. I'm a resident, and I live on Limestone Street. Are we all supposed to do that? Sure. Yeah, I wrote a long letter because it's a lot to wrap up in 2 to 3 minutes, so I'll just hit a few of the high points. So my name is Gavin DeVore Leonard. I live on Limestone. I have a wife and 2 kids, and I've been here 7 years. Thank you to Lisa Krieger for your service, to all the council for your service, for all the staff for the service, and it's cool to see a bunch of residents here as well. The work that I've done essentially professionally and personally for the last 20 some years of being a thinking adult has been around social justice work. I've done all sort of nonprofit social justice work professionally and then filled in a bunch of things on the side. There's a book by Ibrahim Kendi called How to Be an Anti-Racist, and he basically breaks things down very simply. Every decision that you're making is either moving us in a direction that is more racist or anti-racist. I would expect that in a council position, I would be looking at every decision through a social justice lens and looking to figure out, is this taking us in a direction where we're a more just, equitable community, or are we privileging those who do not need that privilege anymore? my interest, I don't have a particular issue. I don't have a particular focus area. I feel like I've watched village politics enough and paid attention to politics and policy outside of politics here enough to know that it's hard to make decisions as a group. I feel like it would be a really interesting challenge, something that I would like to bring energy toward to try to help make decisions collectively in the interests of the common good. I'd be happy to say anything more, but that was the basics, and there's 7 or 8 pages if you want to know more. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Gavin. John Hempfling.
Hi, I'm John Hempfling, West Limestone Street. Hey guys, thank you for your time. I grew up here. I'm a warehouse worker that works in Fairborn. I'm a young father. My son goes to school here. But anyway, I'm gonna jump right into my policy interests. I support affordable housing. By that I mean we should be working towards making it possible for everyone who works in the village, every cashier, server, cook, etc., to be able to afford to live here. I've been working with a group including Matt Raska, Marianne McQueen, Alex Melamed, and Don Johnson, advocating for a suite of changes to our zoning code. This includes mainly allowing all residential uses, including multifamily housing in all residential zones, reducing the restrictions related to setbacks, parking minimums, lot coverage maximums, and lot size minimums to make it easier to construct more housing. But to really help lower working class workers in Yellow Springs, we need to create more subsidized affordable housing. Therefore, I would like to see the village using the land that it owns to create subsidized affordable housing. Now switching to policing. I've been involved with working on issues related to the YSPD since 2009 when I was 19. And my friends and former classmates were getting followed, stopped, searched, cited, arrested by the YSPD for minor drug charges, or basically for pretext stops to try to look for drugs. Johnny and I, as nonstop ANAC students, made a documentary about this stuff. I worked with local youth, mainly Yellow Springs High School seniors, to organize forums about our concerns, which mainly seemed to fall on deaf ears. The documentary seemed to be more convincing and effective than in-person conversations, weirdly. The National Black Lives Matter movement, however, significantly shifted the attitudes and beliefs of a large segment of Yellow Springs and made it possible for council to appoint the Justice System Task Force, which I served on. So on the Justice System Task Force, I was struck by some members' desire to dream that we would be able to solve the problems within the local justice system within JSTF's 2-year mandate. Putting aside how short 2 years is, the problems of the local justice system does not strike me as a problem that can be permanently once and for all fixed by village council. The roots of the problem with the police and courts are caused by racism, classism, sexism, and other problems within American culture. And so, we can just do what we can to try and make the situation better. So I'm going to cut the rest of this because I did want to mention that, according to the village council rules and procedures, public comment should be allowed on all items listed on the agenda and should be heard during council's consideration of said item. And I did want to comment on the previous item and it wasn't open. So just wanted to draw your guys' attention to that. If you wanted to cut public comment from something, I think you should just make a motion to suspend your rules, which you have the power to do. Thank you.
All right, thanks, John. All right. Interesting conclusion. Okay, Matt. But actually, I will say, pretty much all you have to do is flag me down. Oh, yeah. And I don't think I ever say no to any comment, really. I mean, sometimes I miss it, especially online, but yeah, in fact, I think sometimes I get in trouble for taking too much comment. All right, Matt, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Matt Raska. I've lived in Yellow Springs for about 8 years, which I often say is the longest I've ever lived in one place. I work as an engineer in Springfield. I'm married and I got 1 kid and hopefully more. And I've been working on zoning reform with John and Rose and Dawn and Mary Ann and Alex, as he mentioned. And I think we're very fortunate to live in a place like Yellow Springs. And I think by having a place here in Yellow Springs, we often lose perspective on how difficult it is to find a place in Yellow Springs. I could go on about costs, but if y'all select me to join you on Village Council, I will do my best to make sure that, so many years from now, my daughter is able to afford to live here. And on the loss in place thing, could you perhaps use the limited equity buy-in to pay for the class? Please feel free to ask me any questions that you like. Thank you for your time and have a lovely evening.
Thanks, Matt. All right, and Rebecca Potter.
Thank you, everyone. And again, thank you, Lisa, for your service. You were on a very active council during your tenure. You led a lot of policies that changed this village for the better. So thanks. So my name's Rebecca Potter. I live on Dayton Street. I've been a resident for 14 years. I share a lot of the qualifications that this group, really, I would agree, amazing group of people have. I've lived here a long time. I've been involved on council commissions. I'm currently on the Environmental Commission. I've worked with a lot of organizations in the community as well as Greater Dayton. I've had kids go through the school system. I've been involved. But I think I also offer accessibility. I've served hot dogs at the Yellow Springs High School soccer games. I was breaking out down tents at the great events in the weekend, the Earth Day event. And I think that a lot of villagers can recognize me. Many of them know me. I'm at Dino's, I'm at the Emporium, and as an appointed representative, I would make a real point to make myself accessible to people to tell me their views and share those opinions. I am not coming in with an agenda. Second of all, I have an experience in that I was the sustainability director at the University of Dayton. I teach the human dimensions of sustainability. Sustainability intersected a lot of the issues that the council is addressing tonight, and I would bring an expertise to that. Third, my background is literature and the environment, and they say about studying literature, it teaches you to listen, and I'm a good listener. I also like to listen. And I really like to also listen and hear the voices who are not there, and also to talk in a dialogue so that others can listen to each other. I think this is why I've been tapped to serve on a number of boards and in other capacities at the University of Dayton, which rely on deliberative decision-making. And finally, I have a life experience that I think many of us applying for this position share. When I was 10 years old living in Goleta, California, we were priced out of our house. I was a single mom. We were under the poverty line. Housing prices meant that she couldn't pay the rent and we had to move to Sparks, Nevada. I understand deeply what it's like to be financially insecure, occasionally food insecure. And I understand that we have to consider affordability in this community, as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion, from the first to the middle to the end of any decision we make as individuals, but especially if you have this responsibility of governance. So I would bring that to the council, and thank you. You have a tough decision ahead of you.
I will definitely hear here on, first of all, saying that, wow, I'm gonna miss Lisa incredibly. You are one of the reasons that I've stayed on council and have loved working together. But also, I knew before anyone applied that we were going to have a really difficult decision. We have 6 amazing candidates, and it's heartening to see that, despite everything that goes on in government, that people are still interested and engaged. And just we will talk about this again, I'm sure, but, you know, all of you are the people that need to stay engaged, no matter what that decision is. We do have a little bit of business, and then we will go into an executive session. We don't expect anyone to stay, although Josue's manager's reports are always scintillating. And, but we're gonna finish a little bit of business. We're gonna go into executive session. We will come out of executive session, and so there will be something on, you know, YouTube or Facebook or whatever that, you know, is either a decision or an indication that we're gonna take a little bit more time. But anyway, yes, please.
I just want to say that I'm so grateful for everyone for stepping forward. This has been the most difficult, heartbreaking choice for me. But, you know, I have to keep working, and I kept getting promoted. And being the dean of a university is a lot of work. So, and what happened for me was that my promotions happened after COVID had started, and a big part of my position is travel. And I never thought I'd say anything was good about COVID, but it protected me from travel, because travel was locked down, and now I'm traveling almost every week. So I sat down and looked at my calendar, and it was like, well, in the next 6 months, I'm going to miss more than half of the meetings. And I just couldn't do that. So that was the basis of my decision. And I'm just not going to cry. I've made it so far. So anyway, thank you, everybody, though.
Well, I'm not going to try to make you cry. But you know that this is true, that you are the number one reason that I'm on council.
I know.
All right, duly noted. It's on the record. Now the world knows. We're going to miss you, but we'll see.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, manager's report.
Tough to follow. I'm going to miss you, Lisa. It's been incredible to work under your leadership. I've been inspired, motivated every time. Thank you.
All right, manager's report. We've got the wastewater treatment. We've been tracking these viral loads over the last reporting period. We've just seen a lateral movement, significantly different from what we reported last time, which was a tenfold increase in the viral load. So we're not seeing that much increase in the load. So I think that's a good sign. We're using that as tracking for potential outbreaks in the community. So that's going well. We just came out of a great month of activities. We had the Village Health Wellness Month. Our recent health screening had over 30 individuals attend, including myself, and I got a few things to work on my health-wise, so I'll get to it. We had a good outcomes. We've had some good feedback. I think this is going to become an ongoing activity. I think this council has expressed support for these kinds of community building, community wellness activity, and it's paired well with all the Earth Day activities. Folks appreciated the mulch, free mulch activity and other beautification projects. So we're going to continue those activities. On projects, major projects updates, we've gone out to bid for the sidewalk on the limestone project, so we're waiting to hear back from the ODOT on that project. We are on schedule to break ground in June. On the Dayton stormwater projects, I think you know this is one of the headaches I have, which we had to change vendors, and we're still going through the negotiations of doing that storm project. So I don't have a new contract to bring forward, but we're actively working on the negotiations, and we're getting to a good place with a contractor.
That was because of the bedrock issue, is that right?
Yes, that was the bedrock issue, that a contractor just didn't factor that in, and then the change order was just too much. So the Public Works Commission has been very supportive of this challenge we're going, and they understand the dynamics. So we hope to have something lined up over the next 2 weeks. Let me just say 30 days, because I've been saying 2 weeks for a while now. But we're in a good place. So we've got that pipe hanging around at Dayton, at the railroad lot and at Cemetery. I know it's an eyesore. bear with us. We'll try to get that project done as soon as possible. So right now, if everything goes well, we expect to be able to start the work by the end of the year. Reported on energy contracts. Dog park's going well. Johnny wanted me to highlight that the water features is water for the dogs. So he didn't want there need to be confusion about what that water fountain was going to be. So yeah, and my report's in the packet. I welcome any questions. I know we've got a long meeting ahead of us still.
Yeah.
Nice to know we're going to have a softball season.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we took care of the fields, and we're working on a long-term strategy for the fields. The team's going to look at some drainage. So I don't know we will be able to do anything this year, but next year we'll look to improve the drainage on the softball fields. Ellis Pond, I didn't include this in the report because I went out to the site today for Ellis Pond. You know, we've been trying to deal with that algae growth on there, and it's back despite the fountains being installed. So it's back. I'm going to have the water tested for fertilizer, and the reason for it, because I know that's what's causing some of the problem, but the reason I also want to get it tested is because I want to come back to council with a proposal to treat the plants that are growing in the pond, chemical treatment of it. It's safe for the fish, it'll kill the algae, and I want to position it in the way that compared to the fertilizer that's running into the pond, us treating it isn't going to be more detrimental than what's already happening to the pond. So we'll put together a plan for that pond in the next couple weeks. So.
Okay. Marianne?
How's the broadband coming along?
The broadband, we had enrollment sign up. Actually, Kevin was part of the meeting last time. We've got 100 registrations, of which 50 were within the pilot area. So we're working on running the fiber. We expect the fiber team to come out this week at the end of the week. The first project that they'll be linking into will be the Tantalus system, which is our remote read system that we're installing for water and electric meters. So that's going to get hooked up hopefully by the end of the week, and then we'll run the backbone fiber for the pilot project. We're going to continue our marketing efforts to get those 250 households signed up. Right now we've got 50. So folks, if you're out there, you're interested in getting fast symmetrical internet, broadband speeds, please visit our page, visit the springsnet.org page. There's an enrollment form on the sites, and we'll get you on the list.
So does that potentially mean that we would expand the territory of the project?
The pilot area has 410 locations.
Gotcha.
And based on our modeling, we expect a 60% uptake rate. And this part of the design of the pilot area is that to test that hypothesis that we're going to have 60% uptake rate. If we don't get 60% uptake rate in that designated area, I think we have to revisit the model, revisit the assumptions that we made about that area and evaluate. Certainly, if we don't get the 250 homes within this designated area, we will expand because we need to fulfill a grant obligation to get 250 locations hooked up per grant requirements, but it also forces us to rethink our project or do a modification to our model that if in this designated area we're not able to get a 60% uptake, that we may have to consider our assumptions, consider business dynamics. So I think it's a good test pilot, not just for the delivery of service, but also of the business model that we've designed into the project.
Yep. Jessica.
Jessica Thomas, Yellow Springs News. I just was wondering, for the folks who have already signed up, have they received any sort of notification? And if not, when will they?
We're working on that this week. Last week, we did some the analysis of the data that came in to identify do location matching from the surveys. We did a deeper dive on the data that they provided. Those data points that we were looking at is what service they're looking for. Are they looking for the 300 megabits versus the 1 gigabit? Or are they going to require just the module, the network device that gets attached to the home, and then they'll hook in with the fiber to their modem there? Or are they going to need the equipment being both the router and the Wi-Fi router? So we did analysis of that. That's feeding into our procurement process, what technology and equipment we're buying. So we needed to do that, some of that work. Now we're reaching out to folks. Kevin, did I miss anything?
No, that's good. I was just gonna, I didn't want to get into the weeds, but I would just submit that, I wouldn't be too concerned personally, about missing the 60% mark, because the area that we are starting with for the pilot is in the downtown area, and there's businesses and residences there. And I think when we thought about originally a 60% uptake, we were, I'll say in my mind, looking at primarily residents as opposed to businesses. I think the calculus is simpler, for a homeowner versus a business in terms of whether they would change whatever they're doing now for their internet service. And of course, if we need to expand the territory, I'm Kevin Stokes, and I live at 1710 South Beach Drive.
All right, Kevin. All right, yes.
So here's some of the numbers that we did. We had 100 respondents from through the April 22nd. Here are the folks that are eligible. Subscriber types, how many were residential versus commercial, what type of service they're looking for, premise equipment, whether they want ONT, Wi-Fi, or they need help deciding. The ONT option is just attaching a device to the side of the home that the customer will hook into. So, and these are the current providers. No surprise there, as AT&T has the lion's share of the service.
Okay. Any other questions for,
I suspect a lot of people don't know about it, and I'm wondering about how easy it would be to, can you put on door handles
in that area?
Yeah, so we've been working on a couple of things. One is a direct mailer through our a vendor that we have, and I actually was speaking with a resident about recruiting high school kids that I could do training with, similar to the political canvas training that I had done in the past about how to do door knocking and how to present a value-based proposal, whether it's community organizing and whatnot. So I'm looking to recruit folks that would appreciate learning some of those grassroots organizing methodology, and we could also leverage that to do outreach on this program. And more importantly, the way it's presented to me, which I didn't initially think about, is how key that in-person contact, how key or important it is for closing the digital divide. So we've been focused on this fiber to the home project primarily as a replacement, as a substitute of an existing services. But getting back to some of the basics of closing that digital divide is important, and that requires getting on the ground and having that in-person, one-on-one contact.
Jessica?
Jessica Thomas, Yellow Springs News. I just wanted to know, for the folks at home who are filling out that survey, just a clarifying question. So if a person is subscribing with, and this might be getting into the weeds a little bit, if a person is using like AT&T, Verizon, Spectrum, and they have equipment from those companies that they will have to send back once they stop using that service, what would be the best selection as far as the equipment option on the survey for our local Wi-Fi?
We've gone through a lot of scenarios on this, on getting customer profiles and what is the consumer behavior that we're expecting. Some of those assumptions that we're making is being informed by this survey. So what do folks need? The ONT. So if someone says, I just need this ONT device, then the assumption we're making is that they're informed about just needing a place to plug in their router, and then they have their own home networking. But we're also making an option available to provide assistance on making that determination. Yeah. So if someone doesn't know, then we're going to follow up with written material and hopefully a one-on-one consultation about what they may need. Yeah.
Take a cursory glance.
Yeah. Right.
So I don't even know how to answer.
Yeah, well, I mean, they should just be able to, email you or who? I mean,
well, so they can contact.
Small enough that,
Yeah, and we also have a frequently asked questions on the SpringsNet page. It's pretty extensive, I think.
But that SpringsNet group, I mean, they are ready to geek out on any of that, so yeah.
Yes, they're very generous with both their time and their knowledge, so. I think to your question, that closing that digital divide is part of the question, because us tech nerds up here, we'd be like, oh, it's a survey, you fill it out on your phone, or, some of us do so many surveys that our browsers can pre-fill some of the information. But when we think about it, separate from a substitute service, replacing a spectrum provider, we need to think about where their level of understanding and comfort is with the technology. Thank you.
You're thinking about the subsidy, speaking of the digital divide, the subsidized tier?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the changes we made to the program, the business model from the initial presentation, is we thought we would come in with this 3-tier program. There would be a 300 megabit service as a standard service that would be $45. A premium tier would be $65 and will be 1 gigabit. And the third tier will be the 300 megabit with the subsidy for, particularly we're thinking the families that are on free and reduced lunch or need financial assistance, and they would have that 300 megabit tier speed. What we decided to do is, we saw there was a flaw in that business design, that we were making assumptions that the subsidy individuals would only need a 300 megabit speed, and we know that that's not true after much assessment. So what we changed is we have 2 speed tiers, and those that need the financial assistance could have either speed tier, because there would be families or individuals that do have a need for that 1 gigabit tier and have a need for financial assistance. So then there's a $20 credit being applied to those accounts that are eligible for that financial assistance. Furthermore, we're working with Ellis Jacob, who's got deep expertise with the public, with PUCO, which is Public Utilities Commission, and he's been assisting us with qualifying for both the state program and the federal program. And so we're working through that. As soon as we go live with it, Ellis is ready to submit that application on our behalf and qualify us for both state and federal subsidies that we would then use to offset costs for eligible customers.
All right, so the upshot is, we need to keep on promoting, and Jessica, thanks for helping out with that, and we'll figure out some other things as well. All right, cool.
Thank you.
Future agenda items. All right, one thing that I wanted to, it dropped off, was the utility roundup. We were going to talk about maybe making some tweaks so that we're spending more of that, investing more of those funds. And then I had task force written down, but I don't know what that, I don't know if that means anything, but anyway, any other future agenda items?
Events budget, AMP reps.
What's that?
Events budget and the AMP reps. That's the only extra stuff I've got.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Yeah. I'm sure there'll be plenty more showing up. Okay, so with that, I'll entertain a motion to move into executive session for the purpose of evaluation of qualifications of council candidates.
I move that we move into executive session for the purpose of evaluation of the qualifications of council candidates.
Okay,
Second.
all right.
Couch,
Yes.
Stokes,
Yes.
Krieger,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Queen.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, everyone. And as we said, we'll be saying something when we come out of executive session, so.
And we'll keep
Was it 10 o'clock in real life?
Okay, so good evening again. We just came out of an executive session where we discussed the 6 candidates for the council seat for Lisa Krieger. And of course, since we don't make decisions in executive session, we're gonna discuss that right now. And I think at this point, we'll entertain a motion to nominate a person for the council seat.
I'll make a motion. I move that we
Nominate Gavin, DeVore, Leonard to fill the vacant seat created by my resignation.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
All right. Any discussion?
Yeah.
You start?
I'll start. So when I'm looking for someone to fill a seat, I'm looking for a number of things. One is someone who can bring some of the expertise that Lisa Krieger has brought. And 2 things in particular that I'm value that Lisa has brought are her understanding of how organizations work, organizational development, how to work with people, and financial acumen, is that the word? Is that the word? I don't think that some people understand that village council, it's not just about talking, it's not just about having different ideas, it's about actually getting work done, and it's about being responsible for the village government. And part of that certainly has to do with making sure that we are financially solvent, that we're spending money in the best way, and that we're saving money in the best way, and that we're really thinking about the electric system and the sewage system and the roads and all of those things. And there have been some comments that like everyone agrees with everything. Well, actually, I think at this meeting, I think on every vote that we took, we all voted for, it was unanimous on everything, single thing we did. And that is because a lot of the things that we deal with, it's pretty self-evident what should happen. So it's not a reality show, you know, it's not about, are they gonna fight about this, or someone gonna come in and really stir things up? It's really about being able to work together and listen to each other and learn from each other. And so I support Gavin in this regard, both because of what I said about Lisa, but his background and his experience and what I think he'll bring to the council.
Okay. Carmen?
Looking at his experience with the Over the Rhine Co-op. Cincinnati is a city that's close to my heart. That's where the other half of my family is from. And ensuring that the people who lived there before the developers came in and gentrification took over, at least some of them would be able to remain in their homes. Like sometimes these, I'm talking about generational, 90, 100 years. So that was an important factor for me, especially because of that experience and, kind of my vision or the village's vision for moving toward a model for affordable housing that works for people who are in the service industry. Let's see. Also responsible for moving some pretty big money around and securing funding to, and dealing with money, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and being responsible for those funds and being trusted with that kind of money to do a job, and then getting the job done. That was another part for me.
Lisa.
So this was really a very difficult decision to make, because everybody that came and put their hat in the ring had a lot to offer. And I'm glad that so many people that came forward are already serving on commissions, and I know will continue to be active. So this was a really difficult decision. Gavin has been a sounding board and mentor for me since before I ran for council the first time. And before I even ran, when I first envisioned my campaign, when I first started talking about what is my identity as an ally for anti-racist activities in the village, could I really make a difference? And the whole time I've been on council, Gavin comes to me with his thoughts and ideas, and I'm always so moved by how thoughtful he is. And so he's been an important person for me in my council service. And the other, very behind the scenes with great humility. And I've been so impressed by what he's accomplished. It blows my mind that he has been so successful in political activism, also arts activism, which are things that are really important to me. And I know he can continue on that. So I'm very grateful that he threw his hat in the ring, and I think he will work hard and do well.
All right, thanks. Great.
Well, certainly everything that has been said, I agree with. I've been watching Gavin for several years. I remember very early on in my tenure on council, I did some work on the periphery, not to John, on the Justice System Task Force and the guidelines on policing and how that was all coming around. And so I've been watching him since then. I work at Antioch College, and I think that first floor in the library, that ground floor in the library must be his office, because he's always there. So again, I've been watching him for a long time, and knowing what I know about the work he's done across the state, I think is valuable, would be valuable to the village, to have that type of expertise at our disposal. The documents that he provided, certainly, as he even alluded to, speak, to his vast experience doing lots of the things that we're talking about. I would use the term advancement in terms of having to raise funds to keep an organization going. In higher education, the VP of advancement, in other words, doing that kind of work, that is the stepping stone to the president of a college. So being able to raise the money for an organization to keep that organization going is, I think, a valuable skill set. Things that Gavin has shared about his family and his personal life and the things I've witnessed, and there were some personal stories that were shared about his care for all people. I think it just speaks volumes. And as Lisa alluded to a moment ago, every candidate that submitted an application, is a valuable member of this community, and we would encourage each of you to continue doing that work. And as other opportunities present themselves, we would welcome you to continue to lend your service to us, and we really appreciate that. And so I think after going through the deliberations that we have done and making a tough decision because, again, everyone brings something valuable and unique to the table. I think we would be in a good position to bring Gavin on at this time.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, I think, I'll start off by reiterating that I think we all agree we couldn't make a bad decision, honestly. And while I work more closely with some of the candidates than others, I follow everybody, and I think we have 6 thought leaders. And I want to this is making me think I want to spend more time with folks like Rebecca, Matt, and John. I get to interact with a fair amount. So I think that's the first thing. I can't make a bad decision. Everyone adds a lot of value. So I think it is very important to consider what dynamic Lisa brings to the leadership team. And as much as, we might get trashed by some people, there's great leadership and amazing things happening in this village. Just being in California and seeing that we're trying to do things that, these big municipalities are doing. And so the financial acumen thing is huge. And I think we have a couple candidates that weigh in on that. Gavin's definitely strong in that area. The other thing that I've learned a lot from Lisa about is, I love when Lisa talks about the intersectionality of things. And so that really weighs with me as well, as having that breadth that, making those connections really happen. And then one thing that's really great is I'm confident that everybody that has come forward would do the work. And that's one of the things where, that is so huge in this role. And I think Mary Ann said it well. A lot of it is just keeping the lights on and letting these guys do their job. So I think when I look at the interactions I've had with all 6 candidates, I really appreciate that Gavin, I think, is coming in kind of blank slate. I think that's really important for somebody to just sort of, in this appointment, absorb what's going on and get on board with the team, move goals forward, especially because we've had some hiccups that have slowed us down and we need to pick it up. But honestly, I could work with anyone, and but I do think that that Gavin represents, to me, the most of what we're going to lose with Lisa, and that's why I'm agreeing with the council on this. So, thanks everyone. I guess we kind of voted, really. So, should we just
do the roll call?
I think we covered, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to do a roll call again.
All right, so Lisa.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Carmen.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
And Mary Ann.
Yes.
Okay. And it's been a long but productive evening. So thanks everyone, and yes.
So to Carmen's question earlier
About my resignation, I think we handle this just like we do December 31st, that I remain a voting member of council until the next person is sworn in case there's something happens. So you still have 5 people. So do I remain a member of council until the next meeting? Is that right?
That's how I've understood it, as effective, what your resignation effective date is. And we need to work on our end to ensure that the person that is to take over you is sworn in by council president or the mayor upon.
At the front of that meeting?
Yes.
Okay. And so I'll be at Public Art and Culture Commission meeting tomorrow, and I'll cover planning next week. And then that'll make a smooth transition with coverage. Okay.
Yeah, I just had, the only thing that was, I was just going from the charter, and I didn't understand that there technically isn't a vacancy until there's a vacancy. That, I mean,
Right.
which is, okay.
Yeah.
That's just how, that's how it goes. So that's how it's written in the charter. There's not a vacancy unless there is, and until there is.
Okay.
So,
All
yeah,
right. Anything else?
good.
All right, Lisa, we're going to miss you. You're
I'm
off.
sad, but thank you.
Yeah,
It's been
thank you.
a very great experience.
Yes.
Do your last motion.
Oh, yes, there you go.
I move we adjourn.
Second, everyone in favor, woo!
I like that.